Hi, I'm Sarah from The Upcoming. A real pleasure to have you here with us at the 81st Venice Film Festival. Maybe just by way of introduction, for people who don't know anything about your film, Life First, what can they expect when they watch it?
It's a film about a relationship that is so important, I think, for every woman in the world, but has been not so treated in movies, which is the relation between a daughter and a father. And I hope it will be universal, even if the movie is very personal about my own relation with my own father. But I hope that the feelings are going to be recognized and relatable to this such important relation about the father. And it's also a love letter to cinema.
When did you have the initial idea to make a film about this topic? And was it something that you took on lightly or had sort of trepidation about, considering how personal it is to you? Or was it something that you felt almost was like a compulsion?
Well, it's kind of both of them, because I think I had this movie in me for all my life, but I didn't know, in fact. But when we found to be closed in our house with the pandemic, and I was alone in Italy, we were really, I think, everywhere, but in Italy it was especially strong, so we had to be closed at home, and all these memories emerged like really something I wanted to do. And I felt that, my film, it's called The Time It Takes, and really it's also the time it took to me to be strong enough and old enough to felt that I was capable to do this movie. So at one moment I started writing it, and then I had to do.
And what about the process of making it? Did it feel cathartic? Did you ever have a moment that it felt very overwhelming and challenging? What did you love about it, and what was difficult?
For sure, the part of the childhood with this fairy tale, which is Pinocchio, which is the imagination, the power of the dream, of the fantastic that I had in my life, because I was 7 years old when my father was shooting Pinocchio. So I saw that like kind of magic was the funny, really funny part to shoot. And also it was very funny. It was the first time in my life that I shootings. So it was double, I had my own crew, and then there was the actor crew, and I went really freestyle on trying to reproduce the hard job, but also the chaos that I felt when I was a child on the set. And the hard part and overwhelming part was for sure the part when I had to shoot the moment when the daughter is a teenager and she's struggling with kind of addiction with substances, and she felt ashamed, and she felt that she will never be no more in her life good enough for this great father. And it was difficult for me to shoot, but I thought it was important, because I really wanted to communicate a lesson that the father gives to her in that moment, which is failure is a part of a life. It's okay to fail. It's okay to have big problem like she has. And I think this is something that I worked very strong on me, and I wanted to transmit also to young girls and boys. Now we find that we always have to perform, and life is not like that. It's not at all like that. And when you can say, when the father, he saw his daughter on the ground, and he puts on the ground at her level, and he says, I failed all my life. And I thought I would never be a director, and I thought I was never good enough. I think this is the great lesson that he transmits to her. And it was moving for me to do that scene, and overwhelming, but so important. And I wanted to communicate this to my daughter, to my sons, to everybody. It's okay to fail, and life is kind of failure to everybody, even to the people that you admire and that you think are always successful. It's not real. It's not like that.
When it's such a personal story, does it change at all the casting process and kind of bringing them on board? Perhaps it's not that you have that slight arm's length, dealing with characters, when it's something so personal. So what was it like choosing who was going to be in your film, but also bringing them on board with what you had in your own mind?
Yes, I'm very grateful to the actors in this film, because they felt the responsibility of going in this story, and I think they opened their heart and soul of putting part of their own life and their own magic. And but also once you go through the fire and you decide to go so deep in something that is so important to you, and also the actors that have with love and trust followed me, you have to be cold, you have to work, and you have to do it professionally. So once we go together, we work together, and we prepare the movie, and we cross the fire after it was professional.
And in terms of what people can take away from watching the film, I mean, sort of inviting people into, a story so close to you, but obviously everyone's going to take something different from that, and it kind of takes on a life of its own. And as you say there, some of those messages about, learning to fail, not having to perform all the time. Do you hope that, that there'll be something inspirational that people can walk out the cinema with there?
It's hard to say, it could be pretentious, and I don't know. I'm only a filmmaker, and what I hope is that I pay a homage not only to my father, but to cinema and to things that are that I care so deeply, that are so fragile. And cinema is important and is fragile, and we have to don't stop to pay homage to all these things. And I don't know, after, as the character of the father says in the film, you cannot know if the film is beautiful or not beautiful. It only has to stay, to stay. Because my father was first architecture, and like a house, it has to be built to stay and that you can live in. And then whatever people want to carry with them, I cannot say it. I don't know.
How do you feel like why is cinema so important to us? Why is storytelling, well, obviously we've had it through time, but particularly the medium of cinema. And how do you see the health of it today? I mean, Isabelle Huppert, I think the beginning of the festival was saying she feels like it is in a bit of a fragile place.
Yes.
Is it something that's so either over commercialized, or you do still have art house cinema, but maybe something in between is being lost? What's your perspective on all that?
Well, I think you can't live without cinema, without music. It's not life anymore, and we have to know that. Why is it like that? It's because we need to be represented. We need to be seen. We need to, otherwise we feel like we don't exist. So it's also politically so important. It's a huge point. I think it's fragile. I agree with Isabelle Huppert, of course, but I think it's also changing a lot. And you have to stay with change. But I don't like nostalgic feelings. The cinema is changing, and I'm okay. I have done series. I work with platforms, and I like to believe that cinema is fragile but very resistant. And I would like to really to see young directors, and I must say especially girls, because we need their voice, we need to know their point of view. I'm happy to see that here in Venice there are many. My hope is that this sense of not performing and failing that we spoke before, it's also to cinema. You don't need to perform, you don't need to make extra digital effect and huge, incredible, unexpected things, but stay close to your experience, to your emotion, to what you know, to what is the condition of being young and the fears, concern about the future. We need to know that, simply.
And very finally, what does it mean to you to be here in Venice with your film? And do you already know what you're going to work on next? Or are you going to let the dust settle on this one first?
It's incredible to be in Venice, because I've been sometimes, and with my first movie, I was here 40 years ago. So it's incredible. It's like a circle, but it tells me that life is incredible and the chronology doesn't exist. And it's a big circle of energy. I don't know what my next movie will be.
No problem. Thank you so much for sharing all
Thank
that
you.
with me. Such wise words. I feel inspired. I'm really enjoying presenting your film here in Venice in the competition. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.